Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. We're transforming some pretty dense animal research regulations into a highly structured, vibrant, and super easy to memorize masterclass. If you're prepping for your UPSC drug inspector exams, pharmacy boards, or honestly, if you just want to grasp the rigorous ethics behind scientific research, you are exactly where you need to be. We're taking a kawaii professional approach today, meaning high energy, crystal clear concepts, and a laser focus on the exact facts you need to pass. We've got a beautifully organized agenda today. We'll start by meeting the ethical guardians, then break down the 3 R's principle, check out the committee squad and quorum, dive into operations, approvals, and records, and finally wrap up with a high-yield exam cheat sheet.
Let's get started with Section 1, Meet the Ethical Guardians.
So the Institutional Animal Ethics Committee, or the IAEC for short, are essentially the official ethical guardians at every single registered research facility. And they don't just exist as stamp paperwork. They are legally backed by the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960. Their whole reason for being is to review, approve, and carefully monitor experiments to ensure absolute compliance with government guidelines. Those guidelines come straight from the CCSEA, the Committee for Control and Supervision of Experiments on Animals, which operates under the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying. You can really think of the IAEC as the frontline defenders of animal welfare in the scientific community.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 3 R's principle.
This principle brilliantly illustrates the core mission of the IAEC. Honestly, if you only take away one concept from this entire explainer, make it the 3 R's. First up is replacement. The committee will always ask, can we use non-animal alternatives instead? If the answer is no, they move to reduction. Are we using the absolute minimum number of animals necessary for this to be scientifically valid? And finally, refinement. Have we modified our procedures to minimize pain, suffering, and distress? Every single research proposal has to prove it follows these 3 pillars before it ever gets a green light.
All right, Section 3, Committee, Squad, and Quorum. Let's look at how this team is actually built. What's really interesting about the committee's composition is the strict, legally mandated balance. You got 5 internal members. This includes biological scientists, scientists who are actually doing the animal experiments, the scientists in charge of the animal house, and, super importantly, a veterinarian. But to prevent any internal bias, they're balanced perfectly by 3 external voices: a CCSE May nominee, a Link nominee, and a socially aware nominee. This setup ensures that the public's ethical concerns are always represented inside the laboratory walls.
Grab your mental highlighters right now, because 8 is the absolute minimum number of members required to form this committee. 5 internal plus 3 external equals 8. Definitely don't forget that number.
But here's a highly tested twist. To actually hold a legally valid meeting, which, by the way, has to happen at least once every 6 months, you don't need all 8 members there. You just need a quorum of 6. And remember this caveat for your exams. For that meeting to count, at least one of those 6 members must be a CCSEA nominee. There are absolutely no secret meetings allowed without external oversight. Now let's talk about shelf life. Once the committee is officially registered and recognized, that registration holds a validity of exactly 5 years. Once they hit that half-decade mark, they're subject to strict CCSEA renewal to make sure their standards haven't slipped.
And speaking of strict rules, the paperwork is immense. Every single piece of documentation they generate has to be preserved for a minimum of 3 years from the date of the very last entry. This guarantees there's a long, traceable history of accountability for every animal that passes through that facility. Let's jump into Section 4, Operations, Approvals, and Records. This is what they actually do day to day.
This next concept is a huge exam favorite, so pay close attention. You absolutely must know the limits of the IAEC's power. For small lab animals like mice, rats, rabbits, guinea pigs, and hamsters, the IAEC can give the final green light themselves. But for large animals, think dogs, cats, monkeys, pigs, or horses, the IAEC only has the power to review the protocol and make a recommendation. They have to escalate those large animal requests all the way up to the national CCSEA for the final ultimate approval. Operational compassion is legally mandated at every single step. This means researchers can't just find animals anywhere. They must only be sourced from official CCSA-registered breeders. Furthermore, humane endpoints are non-negotiable. The committee guarantees that proper medical care, including anesthesia and pain relief, is used whenever necessary, and that humane euthanasia is strictly enforced if an animal is suffering. To keep those standards high in reality, and not just on a piece of paper, the IAC periodically brings out their inspection clipboards.
They don't just sit in a boardroom. They physically inspect the housing conditions, the sanitation, the quality of the feed, and the fresh drinking water. They're even checking the exact ventilation and temperature of the rooms alongside the quality of veterinary care to ensure overall animal welfare is pristine. And as they do all of this, they document absolutely everything. We mentioned that 3-year preservation rule earlier, and this covers a massive paper trail. They track meeting minutes, approved protocols, the animal stock, where they were procured, daily health, mortality, safe disposal, inspection reports, and even the specific training records of every single staff member who handles those animals. It's total, comprehensive accountability.
Finally, Section 5, the high-yield exam cheat sheet. Let's lock this all in.
Here is our secret weapon to help you memorize all 10 core functions of the IAEC without breaking a sweat. When you sit down for your exam, just jot down this acronym at the top of your scratch paper, RA3MRIM. Let's break down exactly what that means.
First, let's decode the RE³ part. R. They review research protocols. A. They assess the scientific necessity to even use an animal in the first place. E1. They evaluate animal welfare. E2. They ensure those golden 3 R's are applied. And E3, they continually examine ongoing studies to make sure scientists aren't deviating from the approved plan.
And for the second half, MRAM. M, they monitor ongoing compliance. R, they review any amendments or changes to already approved protocols. I, they inspect the animal house facilities periodically. And finally, M, they meticulously maintain all those records and meeting minutes we just talked about. RE³ MRAM. Say it out loud, write it down, and you'll never miss a question on their functions.
I want you to take a mental screenshot of this summary right now. Seriously, burn this into your visual memory. We've got the 1960 legal basis, the minimum 8 members, the quorum of 6, the 6-month meeting frequency, the small versus large animal approval limits, the 3 Rs, and the 5-year and 3-year validities. This is pretty much your ultimate study companion for this topic. As you go forth and ace your exams with the knowledge from this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought that goes way beyond the test paper. These rules exist for a really profound reason: to protect the vulnerable. So, knowing the strict ethical guardianship required by the IAEC, how will you be the one to step up, champion those 3 Rs, and fiercely protect animal welfare in your own future scientific career? Think about it and stay curious.